Hey Jenny, ready for another dive into the tech world?
Mark, you know I'm always up for it. What rabbit hole are we exploring today?
So, I was doing some digging, and you won't believe what I stumbled upon. We're talking about what kind of gaming PC you can build for $500 in 2025, and let me tell you, it's quite the story.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, PC gaming always seems so expensive. Is $500 even in the ballpark of gaming PC territory?
That's the thing, right? It used to be. That wouldn't get you much. But things are changing fast. So basically what's happening is, technology's advancing, and prices are, well, they're not exactly plummeting, but they're getting more reasonable.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But how good can a $500 PC actually be for gaming?
Alright, let me break this down. We're talking about a machine that can handle most games at 1080p resolution, and not just handle them, but run them pretty well.
Okay, wait, 1080p is still like the standard for a lot of gamers, right? But are we talking smooth frame rates here?
Exactly. We're seeing 60 plus frames per second in many titles. I mean, you're probably used to hearing about high-end graphics cards that cost more than that alone, but here's the thing about budget PC building. It's all about the price-to-performance ratio.
Price to performance. That's like the holy grail for budget builders, right?
Right? It's all about finding that sweet spot. And in 2025, that sweet spot is looking pretty darn good. We're talking AMD Ryzen 55600G, or an Intel Core i3-12100F for the CPU. Then an entry-level dedicated GPU, like the RTX 3050 or an RX 6500 XT. Oh man, this is the cool part. These parts used to be way more expensive just a few years back.
So it's like, older tech is becoming more accessible?
Precisely. And you know how everyone says you need tons of RAM? Well, 16 gigabytes is still the sweet spot for this budget, which is great. You can even get a decent 512 gigabytes NVMe SSD for storage.
Okay, that's starting to sound like a respectable machine. But what about the games? Can it actually play the latest stuff?
That's the best part. Most modern games, we're talking 60 FPS at medium to high settings. Esports titles? Even better, like 144 plus FPS. Even some of those big open-world games are playable, around 30 to 60 FPS.
Wow, I'm actually surprised. I was just reading about how demanding some of these new games are.
Yeah, and get this. Compared to, say, 2020, a $500 build today is like a whole different beast. We're talking 50 to 70% improvement in FPS in some cases. It's kind of like, you know when you finally upgrade your phone after a few years and everything's just so much faster? It's like that.
I hear you. So we're seeing some real progress then. But is it just about the games? What if someone wants to, say, stream their gameplay?
Oh, that's a great question. So there's this case study I came across. A content creator, right, built a PC for gaming and streaming for $500, and they managed to get good performance for both.
No way. Streaming takes up a lot of resources, doesn't it?
It does, but they made some smart choices. Like, they picked a CPU with integrated graphics to help with the streaming load, and they still had a dedicated GPU for the gaming side of things. It's a balancing act.
That's clever. It's like you have to be a bit of a tech wizard to figure all this out.
Well, there's definitely some research involved. But that's where the experts come in handy. I was reading this piece by Dr. Lisa Chen from Tech University, and she was saying that $500 is really becoming a sweet spot for entry-level gaming. And Mark Johnson, a senior hardware analyst over at PC Gamer, he was talking about how important it is to balance your CPU and GPU choices.
So the pros are also seeing this shift, it sounds like. It's not just us enthusiasts, huh?
Right. And the numbers back it up. There's this report from GameBench Labs. They found that the average FPS for these builds is around 72 across a bunch of popular games.
Okay, that's compelling. You know, this makes PC gaming seem way more accessible. I remember it feeling like this exclusive club for people with deep pockets.
That's a really important point, Jenny. It's not just about the tech specs, it's about who gets to play. And with these more affordable builds, we're seeing more people get into PC gaming, which is awesome. There's even this survey from PC Part Picker that said 35% of gamers are building in the $400 to $600 range. That's a big chunk of the community.
It is! But, you know, there's always another side to the coin. What about the whole e-waste issue? Are we just creating more tech trash with these budget builds?
That's something we can't ignore. You're right to bring that up. There's definitely a concern there. I mean, when people upgrade, what happens to the old parts? But it's not all doom and gloom. The industry is starting to focus more on sustainability. We're seeing better recycling programs and a push for components that last longer.
That's good to hear. It's like we have a responsibility to think about the long-term impact, not just the immediate thrill of a new graphics card, you know?
Totally. And looking ahead, there are some interesting trends, like AI getting involved in optimizing performance. Imagine your PC automatically tweaking settings to get the most out of your hardware, without you having to do anything.
Whoa, that sounds futuristic. Like, the PC's learning how you use it and adapting?
Exactly. And there's also a bigger push for energy efficiency, which is good for the planet and, your electricity bill.
It's exciting, but also kind of a lot to think about, right? I mean, where do you even start if you're new to all this?
Well, that's why we're here, right? To break it down. I think the big takeaway is that $500 in 2025 can actually get you a solid gaming PC. You just need to be smart about your choices and do your research. And it seems like it's only going to get better from here.
I agree. It's a great time to be a gamer, especially if you're on a budget. Thanks for shedding light on this, Mark. As always, you've given me a lot to ponder.
Anytime, Jenny. Until next time, happy building, everyone.
And to our listeners, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep gaming. Catch you in the next episode.